welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. And in today's video, we're going to be going over some sleepers for the World Championship for Flesh and Blood upcoming. I know we're only going into week 3 of ProQuest, but Worlds is slowly coming up. It's in like 2 or 3 weeks. And I think there's a couple heroes that aren't complete, like, out of it in terms of just crazy wild cards to take the event. But I think they're heroes that some people probably don't have in like their top 4 or 5, right, as most likely to win. And I just kind of want to talk about them because I think it's really important to kind of talk about these heroes that kind of can take advantage of the opportunity in order to really succeed. So we'll get right into it. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. Hopefully you enjoy your stay. If you're a long-staying supporter, thank you so much as always. Feel free to check out the Discord down below as well as the channel membership for access to some cool stuff. We'll get right into it. So I'm going to bring this up here. This is the World Championship article for Osaka. First off, definitely go check this out. Hopefully I'll remember to do it and put it in the description down below. But it gives over all the information. They're doing the anime art hero events, which is really, really cool. They're doing a battle-hardened living legend. They're doing another calling, which is going to be there as well. A cosplay contest, commoner event, learn the plays, alpha draft, just all this really cool stuff. And we also have the 5th anniversary event, which I'm super excited about. I know our store it looks like is likely going to be doing a living legend event probably for our 5th anniversary, which is really, really cool. We're kind of picking what one we want to do per the community. But some really, really cool stuff here. They have what to expect, event details. Definitely go check this out. Get some stuff for this. But for me, I wanted to kind of talk about 3 specific heroes. Now, these heroes like aren't how do I put this? Aren't like completely foreign to winning events. Gosh, I don't know why I couldn't get that out. Completely foreign to winning events. But they're 3 heroes that I think people aren't necessarily as like a first pick, but I want to give like why I think they're a sleeper and why I think they have a chance to spike the event if someone were to come in, do well in draft, and really get to the final and you see them in a top 8. The first one, and the most interesting one, and one that was a sleeper last big event at the Pro Tour, is Yurei. Now, Yurei, the whole dichotomy between Yurei and New, and I'm going to show some lists here as we go through this, is very interesting because in a vacuum, New is technically a more powerful assassin, right? She has access to better cards, so to speak, with stuff like Siren's Call and Hiss and Venomous Bite, and obviously her Mask of Recurring Nightmares and things like that. But what Yurei really has the ability to do is to go into a specific metagame and really target whatever heroes are perceived to be the best. She has the ability to, if she goes into a metagame, let's say that has a lot of Aurora and Dash.io, she can run cards like Weakest Link, cards like even like Humble, cards like Cut Down the Size, which is not even a common one. Other cards like Shakedown, which are also always really good, right? Cards like Death Touch, which can give Frailty tokens, which is really good in the Dash.io. She has access to Codex of Frailty, all this stuff. On top of that, she got access now to Bonds of Agony and Persuasive Prognosis, which she can also flip into. Now, Yurei has a very bad Enigma matchup. It's horrible. It's just as bad as Arachne, to be completely honest with you. However, I will say, if we go into a Worlds metagame where, let's say, this upcoming weekend, the Dash.io Armory decks go out, a lot of people get access to the new cards. Dash.io does really well. I expect Dash.io to be like top 5 in wins if people can get their hands on the cards quick enough. And then let's say week 4 comes around when people finally fully get the cards and everyone's tested enough in paper and stuff, and Dash.io just wipes the floor in the last week of ProQuest season and ends up being like the winningest deck. And then Aurora is second, and then Enigma kind of goes down due to Dash.io being so dominant. And we go into a Worlds metagame where the perceived best deck is Dash.io by far none. Aurora is the second best deck, and then Enigma actually ends up going down because people may swap off of Enigma knowing that Aurora and Dash.io both are very rough matchups, and if 2 of the top 3 decks they don't pair well into, they may not end up going. I don't think it's going to be that drastic, but I could see a world where Dash.io just kind of takes over the meta week 4, and then the top 2 decks that are perceived are Dash.io and Aurora, and then Enigma's representation goes down a little bit. If that happens, I think a deck like Yurei has the ability to just come in and spike. Now, Yurei is pretty good in the Dash IO for the most part. I would say she's favored pretty significantly, even with the new cards, in my opinion. Aurora can be a little tougher due to the split damage, but I still think if you know that you're teching for Aurora and Dash IO, a lot of the tech cards mirror each other. Weakest Link is good into both. Humble can be good into both. It's a little bit better into Dash IO, but it's still good into both. You know, you have cards like Deft Touch, which are very good into Dash IO. You can do these different cards. Erase Face is obviously really good into both of them. Really good. So I think Yurei could come into a metagame where she just says, okay, I don't care about the other decks. I'm just going to tech for those two and then run the best other cards I can and really get far in the event. Very similar to how the Pro Tour was when Shoma Yamamura ended up saying, okay, I'm not going to run AB in my list because he didn't. And he said, screw it. I'm just going to go and try to attack Zen. And that's what he did. So obviously not this exact list. This is just a stock list I'm showing. But I do think something like this could end up doing very well if we go into a meta game where Aurora and Dash IO are very perceived as being like meta. The second one is actually Zen. First off, Zen is still a very good aggro deck. I would say it's like probably top 3, top 4. It's still behind Dash IO for sure. I personally, this is just my personal take, I think it has very similar power level to Aurora, maybe like one step below. I think a lot of people just kind of got off the deck and realized that it's still not bad, and Aurora is just more popular right now. But I think if representation was equal, you would see them placing equal, to be completely honest with you. That's just my take. But Zen is very good, and I think Zen, similar to Yurei, but not quite as much. If we go into a metagame where all three of the decks I've been mentioning, Aurora, Dash IO, and Enigma, are all kind of perceived to be in the middle, if you wanted to pick a deck outside of those three that could do really well, I could see Zen end up placing very well, because Zen has a fair, like, okay to good Dash IO and Aurora matchup. Like, I would say it's 50-50. It's like every aggro matchup, right? Whoever gets their power cards first. If Zen transcends really early, like turn 1, turn 2, and then can wait for the right moment to use the headpiece to have a really good, like, chase the tail turn and end up doing really well, then Zen has a very high chance of winning. If Dash IO sees a boom grenade, you know, high octane turn crazy early on, then they're probably favored, right? I think those matchups are tit for tat, and then Zen still has a very good Enigma matchup. So I could see Zen, like someone that just really wants to dedicate and go into Zen, someone maybe that hasn't gotten off the hero yet since the bans and knows the hero is good. Maybe some of the people that have been winning the Pro Quest with him, I could see him doing pretty well. And I think even regardless of maybe not spiking the event, I would not be surprised to see Zens have a pretty good day 2 conversion if they do well in draft, obviously, going into World. So Zen's a big one for me. A lot of people are just running like really good value stuff. This is a pretty stock list compared to some of the Pro Quest winners I've been looking at. Obviously some ratios are a little bit different, but typically they're utilizing cards like Bittering Thorns, Breed Anger, Chase the Tail, still using Ancestral Harmony, adding Spinning Wheel Kicks into the list, and Pouncing Key to have some synergy with Harmony. And a lot of people are actually now running Tiger Eye Reflex to be able to get that value with like stuff like Breed Anger and Chase the Tail, and really just kind of go to the races. So still a very good deck, has a lot of flexibility, still very good armor. They can still run Needles on the side against decks like Aurora. Like, that's kind of a 50-50 split on who does that and who doesn't, but it is a possibility. So I could see Zen actually doing pretty well with that. And the final one, this is probably the spiciest one, I guess, out of all of them, is Victor. I don't think in a vacuum Victor is a very good deck right now. I think Victor struggles a lot. Guardian in general struggles a lot. However, similar to Yurei, if we go into a Worlds metagame where Enigma is perceived to be less playable and people are just off the deck, or people just want to, you know, call their shot and say, okay, not as much Enigmas are going to show up due to the perception of Dash IO, you could see Victor come in and just try to prey on the Dios and the Auroras and really just try to, you know, tank up, utilize cards like Trounce and test their strength, and really just outvalue their opponent, especially the aggro decks, and then use cards like Pummel and other on-hit effects in order to really just kind of, you know, go off to the races. So I could see a list like Victor doing well in a Worlds perceived metagame where Aurora and Dash IO are just heads and tails above everything else. And that's going to be the biggest thing going into this World Championship is really, where is the perception of Enigma going into that last week, right? If Dash.io just absolutely dominates the last week of ProQuest, even like not dominates, but it's just the winningest deck alongside Aurora, you could see these decks like Yurei and Victor kind of creep in. If it doesn't, and it still seems pretty even for the most part, then maybe not, right? Maybe we kind of can get something else. But honestly, those are the heroes that I see having the most chance that aren't just like wild picks to maybe spike worlds. I wanted to actually put Fi in there, but when I looked at Fi and Zen, they kind of both fill a similar role. So I just went ahead and picked Zen. But also, I think Fi is a little bit undervalued. I'm not saying Fi is a good deck, but the deck is not as dead as people think it is, and it's a very consistent deck with consistent damage. And again, if we go into a metagame where Enigma is still perceived to be very playable and is kind of on par with Aurora and Dash.io, you could see a deck like Fi come in and just have super consistent turns, really not stumble at all, and be able to win some games. Because the difference between a deck like Fi and a deck like Aurora or Dash.io is Aurora and Dash.io can have off turns. They can. Like, the decks, they're not inconsistent, but they do have some turns where it's like, okay, I didn't draw the right cards. Like, Aurora can draw 2 instants, a no-on-go again attack card and something else, and it's like, okay, well, I can't do much this turn. Dash.io can draw 3 items, right? And maybe has no outs in order to play it. So whereas Fi is always going to be doing like 9 to 12 damage minimum, and if on a good turn they're doing like 13 to 15, and on a great turn they're doing plus of that. So I could see Fi's consistency just gain through a little bit, but I had to pick Zen over Fi. So those are my top 3, with Fi being an honorable mention. Let me know what your thoughts are as far as like a sleeper pick, though. Like, obviously those 3 decks in Aurora, Enigma, and Dash.io I think are going to be the perceived best decks. I think after that, it's kind of a free-for-all. I really wouldn't tell you which is the next best. Honestly, in a world where it's Dash.io and Aurora, I'd rather be on Yurei than on New, like straight up. And I'm not saying that because I think Yurei in a vacuum is better. I just think Yurei has better target disruption into aggro decks than New does, and can race a little bit better also, and put out the damage needed while also disrupting that sometimes New can lack in certain situations. So let me know what your thoughts are. I'd love to hear it. I'm super excited to watch Worlds. Obviously, we'll see how these last 2 weeks of ProQuest season go. But once they happen, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, thank y'all so much for watching this. If you like this type of content, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe. If not me, it's totally fine. Go to another creator, leave a like, comment, subscribe on their stuff. Let's get more people seeing these games. And yeah, I'll see y'all next time on TCG Talk. Thank y'all so much.